Imagine walking into a casino. The lights are flashing, the drinks are free, and the floor manager hands you a stack of chips just for showing up. He tells you that if you play your cards right, you can leave with a free vacation to the Maldives. It sounds incredible, but we all know how casinos work. They don't build those massive fountains and gold-plated lobbies by giving away money. They build them because the house always wins. The modern credit card industry operates on the exact same blueprint. We look at our points balance and see a free flight to Tokyo. The banks look at their balance sheets and see billions in profit extracted directly from our behavior. I used to be a maximizer. I had 20 cards. I tracked every penny. But then I looked at the actual cost of playing the game. Today, we are stripping the marketing veneer off the credit card points ecosystem to answer one question. Are you actually beating the bank, or are you just a really profitable customer who thinks they're winning? The common narrative is simple. Use the card, pay it off in full every month, and profit. If you do that, you are technically winning, but that is a massive if. The financial industry hires behavioral psychologists and data scientists to ensure that if becomes a statistical impossibility for the majority of people. Even for the smart ones. Even for people like us who love spreadsheets. I've noticed that when I talk about this, people get defensive. We treat our credit card strategy like a personality trait. But numbers don't care about how responsible we feel. The numbers say that the points game is designed to fundamentally alter how you interact with money, usually without you noticing until it's too late. We are going to break down the 4 specific traps laid out for us, starting with the spending psychology that costs you way more than 2% cashback. Before we dissect the math, I want to make sure you're getting the best ROI on your time here. We dissect financial myths like this every week. My goal isn't to sell you a course, it's to help you keep the money you've already earned. If that sounds like a decent trade for a mouse click, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you being here. Now, let's look at the first major mechanism the banks use against us. It's not the interest rate. It's not the annual fee. It's something much more subtle called frictionless spending. Most people assume they spend the same amount regardless of payment method. I've run those numbers, and the data suggests otherwise. Let's start with the most common defense I hear. Tom, I treat my credit card like a debit card. I only buy what I have the cash for. I believe you believe that. I used to say the exact same thing. The logic holds up on paper. If you need a carton of milk and it costs $3, you swipe the card, pay the $3 later, and pocket the 6 cents in rewards. It feels like an arbitrage opportunity. But this assumes that human beings are rational actors who make spending decisions in a vacuum. We aren't. We are emotional creatures, influenced by dopamine and pain receptors. The credit card companies know that if they can separate the pleasure of acquisition from the pain of payment, your brain processes the transaction differently. This isn't just a hunch. There is a mountain of academic literature on this specific phenomenon, and the results are frankly terrified if you are trying to build wealth. Let's look at the famous Dun and Bradstreet study. They found that people spend 12% to 18% more when using credit versus cash. Another study, focused specifically on McDonald's transactions, found the average ticket size jumped from $4.50 to $7 when the customer switched from cash to plastic. Think about that margin. That is not a 2% increase. That is a massive behavioral shift. Why does this happen? When you hand over a $20 bill, you physically feel the loss. It's a visceral pain of payment sensation. When you tap a shiny metal card, you don't feel that loss. You feel the satisfaction of the transaction completing. If you are earning 2% back in points, but you spent 15% more to get it because the friction was removed, you are down 13%. You didn't beat the bank. the bank successfully upsold you on your own lifestyle. If your monthly budget is $4,000 and this psychological slip causes you to spend just 10% more, that is $400 gone. Your $80 in points rewards looks pretty small next to that $400 leak. Here is the twist that really gets me. It's not just about spending more. It's about decoupling the purchase from the consequence. When you pay cash or debit, the consequence is immediate. Your bank balance drops. You see the number go down. When you use a credit card, the consequence is pushed 30 days into the future. That temporal gap is where your financial discipline goes to die. It's the same reason it's hard to diet. Eating the pizza is immediate gratification. Gaining weight happens weeks later. Credit cards turn consumption into an immediate reward and payment into a future problem. Even if you pay in full, you are constantly living in the past, paying for dinners you ate 4 weeks ago. This subtle stress keeps you on the hamster wheel. You never actually own your paycheck when it hits your account. It's already spoken for by the ghost of your spending from last month. So, what is the fix? Do we cut up the cards? Maybe. If you are in debt, yes, absolutely. But if you want to keep the points without the spending creep, you need a new protocol. I call this debit-style tracking. You need to recouple the pain of payment. This means you check your card balance every single day, not once a month when the statement closes, every day. Or you use budgeting software that automatically deducts the credit card transaction from your available cash category the second it happens. If you buy a $100 dinner, your grocery budget needs to drop by $100 immediately in your tracking system. If you aren't willing to do that level of administrative work, the math says you are likely losing more in overspending than you are gaining in rewards. It's a harsh truth, but the data is the data. Now, you might be thinking, Tom, I track everything. I am immune to the psychological tricks. Fair enough. Maybe you are the outlier. But even if you are the most disciplined spender in the world, there is another trap you are walking into. This one isn't about how much you spend. It's about how much everything costs before you even pull out your wallet. You think you're getting a discount with your points. But what if I told you that you're actually paying a surcharge on your entire life just to participate in this system? The banks have created an invisible tax, and you are paying it at the grocery store, the gas station, and the coffee shop, whether you use a card or not. Let's talk about the interchange fee economy. Have you ever sat in an airport lounge, sipping a complimentary mimosa, and wondered, who is paying for this? The airline isn't. The bank isn't. The merchant is. And because the merchant is paying for it, you are paying for it. Every time you swipe a card, the merchant pays a processing fee, usually between 1.5% and 3.5%. This is the interchange fee. In the US, these fees are uncapped and some of the highest in the world. To a small business with 10% margins, losing 3% of revenue is catastrophic. So, what do? They don't just eat the cost, they raise their prices. That $10 sandwich becomes $10.30 for everyone. If you pay with cash, you are subsidizing the credit card user. If you pay with a basic card, you are subsidizing the premium card user. It's a reverse Robin Hood scenario. Let's run the numbers on this. The Federal Reserve of Boston released a paper estimating that credit card rewards transfer over $1,000 per year from lower-income cash users to high-income credit users. But here is the kicker for you, the savvy user. If prices across the economy are inflated by roughly 2 to 3% to accommodate these fees, and you are earning 2% back, you are effectively just breaking even on the inflation caused by the system itself. You aren't getting free money. You are just clawing back the surcharge that was baked into the price tag. It's like a store marking up a shirt by 20% just to put it on a 20% off sale. You feel good about the discount, but you paid exactly what they wanted you to pay. The only difference is that if you use cash, you are paying the markup without getting the rebate. This forces you to use the card just to tread water. Here is where it gets interesting. We are seeing a shift. More small businesses are implementing dual pricing or cash discounts. You see this at gas stations all the time, but it's moving to restaurants and contractors. If a plumber offers you a 5% discount for paying with cash or a check, and your card only gives you 2% back, the math flips instantly. Using the card is a financial error. I've noticed people will fight tooth and nail to use their card for the points, ignoring the fact that the cash price is mathematically superior. We get so addicted to increasing our points balance that we ignore the net flow of dollars leaving our pocket. Wealth is measured in net worth, not frequent flyer miles. The protocol here is simple, but it requires a bit of social courage. For small purchases, it doesn't matter much. But for high-ticket items, home renovations, medical bills, furniture, always ask for the cash price. I recently had some HVAC work done. The quote was $4,000. I asked, "What's the price if I write you a check today?" He dropped it to $3,700. That is a $300 savings, or a 7.5% return. No credit card on earth beats a guaranteed, tax-free 7.5% return. Don't be a robot swiping for points. Be a negotiator looking for value. Whenever you see a processing fee added as a line item, do the math. If the fee is 3% and your card earns 2%, put the plastic away. You are paying for the privilege of losing money. So we've covered how you spend more and how prices are inflated. But let's say you navigate all of that perfectly. You get the points. You have a mountain of them sitting in your account. You feel rich. This brings us to the most dangerous trap of all. The currency you are hoarding is melting. Imagine working a job where your paycheck sits in a bank account that loses 10% of its value every year, and the bank manager can decide on a whim to cut the value in half overnight. That sounds illegal, right? In the world of loyalty programs, it's not only legal, it's the standard business model. Let's talk about point devaluation. We treat points like a savings account. We like to see the number go up. There is a sense of security in having 500,000 miles sitting there for a rainy day or a dream honeymoon. It triggers the same part of our brain as a high score in a video game. But points are not money. Money is legal tender backed by the government. Points are an unsecured liability on an airline or hotel's balance sheet. To a CFO at an airline, your points balance is a debt they owe you. And just like any company with debt, they want to reduce it. They can't delete your points, but they can change what they buy. This is called dynamic pricing, which is a polite corporate term for inflation on steroids. Let's look at the history. 10 years ago, a business class ticket to Europe might have cost 100,000 miles round trip. Today, on lines like Delta or United, you often see dynamic pricing asking for 300,000 or 400,000 miles for that same seat. That is a 300% inflation rate over a decade. The US dollar inflates at maybe 3% on average. Points can inflate by 50% overnight without warning. We saw this recently with several hotel chains eliminating their award charts. Suddenly, the hotel that cost 20,000 points last week costs 50,000 points today because it's a holiday weekend. If you are hoarding points, you are holding a depreciating asset. I ran a comparison. If you had taken $1,000 in cash back 5 years ago and invested it in the S&P 500, you'd likely have nearly $2,000 today. If you held $1,000 worth of points for 5 years, they are likely worth $700 in purchasing power today. The opportunity cost is staggering. The psychological trick here is availability bias. The bloggers and influencers show you the incredible redemption. I flew first class for $50. They don't show you the 3 hours they spent searching for availability, or the fact that they had to fly on a Tuesday in November. Airlines release very few saver seats. The rest are priced astronomically high. When you decide to use your hoard, you often find that the blackout dates and dynamic pricing make it impossible to get the value you thought you had. You end up settling for a mediocre redemption just to use them. You've played the game for years, paying annual fees and optimizing spend, only to cash out at a rate of 0.8 cents per point. You would have been better off with a basic 2% cashback card and zero stress. The solution is the earn and burn strategy. Do not save points. Do not hoard them for a retirement trip. Points are a melting ice cube. If you have them, use them. My rule is, if I don't have a specific redemption planned within the next 12 months, I prefer cash back. If you do earn points, focus on transferable currencies, like Chase Ultimate Rewards or Amex membership rewards, rather than committing to a single airline. This gives you optionality. If United devalues their points, you can transfer to Air Canada or Hyatt instead. Flexibility is the only hedge against devaluation. But generally, if you are sitting on 1,000,000 points, you aren't winning. You are letting the airline borrow money from you at a negative interest rate. We can't talk about points without talking about the price of admission, the premium cards, the heavy metal ones that make a satisfying clunk on the table. They come with annual fees of $250, $550, even $695. The banks sell these fees to us by promising credits and perks that ostensibly offset the cost. They tell you, it's effectively a free card if you use the credits. This is one of the most brilliant marketing schemes in modern finance. It turns a liability into a challenge. It forces you to spend money to justify the money you already spent. This is the coupon book trap. Look at the American Express Platinum or the Chase Sapphire Reserve. High fees, but loaded with credits. Uber Cash, dining credits, airline incidentals, streaming service rebates. On a spreadsheet, it looks like the bank is paying you to hold the card. But ask yourself, would you have spent that money naturally? If you are ordering Uber Eats once a month just to use your $15 credit, you aren't saving money. You are prepaying for a service you might not have used otherwise. That is lifestyle creep disguised as a perk. The bank is betting on breakage, that you will forget to use the credit, or that you will use the credit and spend extra on top of it. They are turning you into a franchise of their partners. Let's do the break-even math. Say a card costs $695. The credits are worth, nominally, $700. You break even, right? No. Because cash in your pocket is worth 100 cents on the dollar. A credit for Uber is worth maybe 80 cents on the dollar because it is restricted. You can't pay your rent with Uber credits. You can't invest Uber credits. So you are trading $695 of hard liquid cash for $700 of restricted expiring store credit. That is a bad trade. Furthermore, to justify the fee, you often need to put significant spend on the card. But these premium cards often have terrible multipliers on everyday spend. 1 point per dollar on everything non-travel. If you spend $20,000 on a card earning 1x to justify the fee, instead of a no-fee card earning 2x, you lost $200 in rewards potential. That is an invisible cost added to the annual fee. This creates a sunk cost psychology. Once you pay that fee, you feel obligated to maximize the card. You book the more expensive hotel because it's in the collection that gives you a $100 credit. You fly the airline that lets you use the lounge, even if the ticket is $50 more. The card becomes the tail wagging the dog. You are no longer shopping for the best price or the best experience. you are shopping to validate your credit card choice. It flatters your ego to pull out the premium card, and the banks monetize that ego. I've seen people keep cards for years that they barely use just because it has good perks, effectively paying a $700 subscription fee for a Priority Pass membership they use twice a year. Here is the protocol. The Keeper calculation. Open a spreadsheet. List the annual fee as a negative. Then, list the credits you would use even if you didn't have the card. Value them at 100%. List the credits you use only because you have the card and value them at 50%. If the total doesn't significantly exceed the annual fee, cancel the card. Or better yet, downgrade it. Most issuers allow you to downgrade a premium card to a no-fee version after the first year. This preserves your credit history and credit limit without the cost. Don't be afraid to churn and burn the cards themselves. Loyalty to a piece of plastic is a one-way relationship. Now, whenever I suggest opening and closing cards, people panic about their credit score. Tom, won't that tank my rating? Won't I get rejected for a mortgage? This is the final barrier that keeps people frozen, and honestly, there is some truth to it, but not in the way you think. The danger isn't that your score will drop. The danger is that you will become addicted to the game and lose sight of the bigger financial picture. We need to talk about the impact of churning, opening cards just for the bonus, on your financial life. Churning is the practice of signing up for a card, hitting the minimum spend to get the welcome bonus, say $750 worth of points, and then moving on to the next one. It is, mathematically, the most lucrative part of the hobby. The return on spend is huge. If you spend $4,000 to get $750 back, that's an 18% return. Unbeatable. But it turns credit into a hobby. And like any hobby, it consumes mental bandwidth. You are tracking dates, deadlines, annual fees, and inquiry counts. It introduces complexity into your financial life. And complexity is the enemy of execution. The more moving parts you have, the more likely something breaks. A missed payment, a forgotten annual fee, a hard inquiry at the wrong time. Regarding the score itself, the math is counterintuitive. Yes, applying for a card triggers a hard inquiry, which typically drops your score by 2 to 5 points temporarily. However, opening a new card increases your total available credit. If your spending stays the same, your credit utilization ratio, which makes up 30% of your score, goes down. Lower utilization raises your score. So, paradoxically, having more credit cards can improve your score over the long term, provided you pay them off. I have 15 active cards and a score over 800. The myth that opening cards ruins your credit is false. The real risk is timing. If you are applying for a mortgage in the next 12 months, stop. Mortgage lenders are conservative. They don't like to see 5 new accounts in the last 6 months. It makes you look desperate for cash, even if you are just farming points. The real cost of churning isn't your FICO score, it's your focus. I call it administrative overhead. Every hour you spend researching offer terms, managing spreadsheets, and calling reconsideration lines is an hour you aren't spending on earning more income, learning a skill, or just relaxing. If your hourly rate is $50 and you spend 10 hours a year managing a card ecosystem to gain an extra $300 in value, you are losing money on your labor. We tend to value our time at zero when we are doing financial optimization, but our time is our scarcest resource. Simplification has a value that doesn't show up on a bank statement. The protocol for safe churning relies on the Chase 524 rule. Most issuers have rules to stop aggressive churners. Chase won't approve you if you've opened 5 cards in the last 24 months. My advice, stay under this limit. Open maybe 1 or 2 cards a year when the bonuses are historically high. Don't chase every small offer. And always, always put your mortgage first. If you plan to buy a house, go into the garden, meaning no new applications, for at least 12 months prior. A 0.1% difference in your mortgage rate due to a lower credit score will cost you far more than any amount of airline miles you could ever earn. So, where does this leave us? Do we quit the game? No. We just stop playing by their rules. The banks want you to be a maximizer, obsessed, spending more, hoarding points, paying fees. I want you to be a satisficer, someone who takes the low-hanging fruit and ignores the rest. We need a strategy that captures the value without the headache. Let's wrap this up with the final protocol, the hybrid model. The hybrid model is simple. You need 2 cards. Card 1 is a premium travel card, like a Sapphire or Venture X, used for travel and dining. You keep this for the transfer partners and insurance protections. Card 2 is a no-fee, flat-rate 2% cashback card, like a Citi Double Cash or Fidelity Visa. You use this for literally everything else. No rotating categories, no coupon books. If you have a massive expense, open a new card for the bonus, then downgrade it later. That's it. This captures 90% of the value with 10% of the effort. You aren't overspending to hit weird category bonuses. You aren't hoarding millions of points. You are earning flexible rewards and cash, and you are getting on with your life. I want to hear from you in the comments. I want a peer review on this. Are you a maximizer with 20 cards and a complex spreadsheet? Or are you a cashback purist? Have you ever caught yourself spending more just to hit a bonus? Drop your story below. It helps the algorithm, but it also helps the community see the reality of these systems. If this breakdown saved you from paying a $695 fee you didn't need, leave a like on the video. I'll see you in the next one. Keep your wallet safe.